And then we're live. Welcome, Reds, to Jarvis's Corner. Tonight we have a cracking show for you. I have, as usual, my co-host Stu Wally on the show, and we have special guests today, Boombaye and Tom Journalist One. So stay tuned, and we will talk a little bit about Ten Hag.
There is nothing wrong with your television set. Do not attempt to adjust the picture. We are controlling transmission. If we wish to make it louder, we will bring up the volume. If we wish to make it softer, we will tune it to a whisper. We will control the horizontal. We will control the vertical. We can roll the image, make it flutter. We can change the focus to a soft blur, or sharpen it to crystal clarity. For the next hour, sit quietly and we will control all that you see and hear. We repeat, there is nothing wrong with your television set. You are about to participate in a great adventure. You are about to experience the awe and mystery which reaches from the inner mind to...
Welcome, everybody. This is Jarvis's Corner, finally Monday night, and we are ready to go. Tonight we're going to talk a little bit about Ten Hag's tactics, what went on yesterday's game against Manchester City. We all know how that went. We lost the game 3-1, but I see some good things, and maybe Stu will do some analytics about the game, and hopefully Tom Journalist One. We will also talk about the manager. We have heard rumors. Now we have 3 more games. Will he be kept, or will we sack Ten Hag? And we will talk a little bit about the players who are staying. McTominay, Rash, Bruno may be staying for next season. And I will talk a little bit about my speciality, tactics, and I would address today the lack of dribblers. But first of all, I just want to say hi to the special guest of the evening. It's Boombaye. How are you doing, my friend? Can you hear me? Thank you. Okay, we go to Stu. Hey, Stu, how are you doing?
I am very well. Good evening, VAR room. Boombaye, great to have you on board with us. And of course, Tom, always a pleasure. Yeah, no mighty Tipton Town news, I'm afraid. I can hear the jeers already. Yes, no mighty Tipton Town news. The weather over in the UK has been absolutely abysmal. So we had a lot of sleet and snow over the weekend in parts of the UK, and we unfortunately were a victim. The mighty Tipton Town were a victim. Luckily for Northfield, because we would have given them a right caning. Yes, but it is what it is. But the good news is I've had a good day, so I'm quite happy. I've had an impromptu kickabout, hence I'm a bit sweaty and a bit crappy tonight, which was good. I quite enjoyed it. I netted 5, so I was well happy.
Okay. You netted 5. That's fantastic.
Who were you playing? United?
Yeah, unfortunately we were. Yeah, no, we didn't. A friend of mine needed an old codger with a Zimmer frame to come out and marshal the back in a 7-a-side league game, but I think we were playing a bunch of blind people because it was piss easy.
So United.
Yeah. Well, you know, what's the old saying? You can only beat what's in front of you. The fact that it was in front of us was something to behold. But no, really good day today. So yeah, so I'm quite happy.
We can. I tried first, but we can try a second time. I just want to say hi to Boombaye. You probably know him from United Real Therapy with Nuruddin. They are like cats and dogs fighting it out on that channel. But tonight we only have Boombaye here, and he can talk freely. So how are you doing, my good friend?
Yeah, I'm very well. Thanks for having me on. Good evening, everybody. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, fantastic to have you on. And of course, coming back from holiday, Tom Journalist One. So how was your holiday, mate?
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, like I said yesterday on Rudin's show, I've come back with a third-degree tan. I'm pretty burnt,
nice.
so come back good. Had to drink the night away last night, of course, but maybe not as bad as I have done last season when we lost 7-0 and 6-2. But somebody said to me, I said it on Rudin's show earlier anyway. Somebody said to me, apparently it's getting better because at least you didn't lose 7-0, at least you didn't lose 6-2. You only lost 3-1. Apparently that's getting better. I don't think it is, but trust the process, as a fine man once said. But maybe at another football club, not at Manchester United. But yeah, big up to everybody, VR Room, Stu, Bombay, and yourself, Jarvis. Big up.
Yeah, thank you. And speaking of the VAR room, let's see who we have here. We have, of course, as always, Stephanie Griffith commenting, saying, big up Jarvis and VAR rumors. And that's fantastic. Always keeping count of the likes. So big up to Stephanie. We have Lucky Singh in the house. We have Lilis United, Jale Malmin. We have Linda Wardington. Who else do we have here? Edward Reed, Red J. Illyria United, Ian McDonald, Craig Warby coming up from Manchester to say hello. And Lily says, like the video, people. So everybody start the video by hitting the like, because we need all the help we can get with the algorithms. As we speak, there are 32 people watching. Let's hope we can get up to 50 to 60 people during the show. So keep them likes coming. Who else do we have? We have Ronan, we have Ian McDonald, as I mentioned, and Neil Driscoll. Big up, young man. Good to see you again. And who else? Let me just scroll down here. We have Georgie Best coming in. Say Sir Jarvis and old school Stu. Big up, guys. What do you mean with old school? Are you old school, Stu?
Very, very old school. Yes, he likes a rough and tumble. Does old Georgie Best? He likes it hard.
Yeah. And we have Rush Mono in the house coming in with a thumbs up. Craig Warby with a question to Boumbaye. Has Nora sent you out on loan, Boumbaye?
Yeah. I've got permission. This is a one-off loan deal. Jarvis and Dino thrashed it out in the dark. I'm just a pawn, but it's nice. It feels like a reunion. Evening, the whole family in the comments.
Yeah,
got
they are
Craig.
here.
Yeah, everybody's here. Lillis, Craig. The whole gang. Lucky Singh. Everybody's here. Jamie. Nice. Feel right at home.
Yeah. This is home. This is the family. Yeah, and it's good to have you on, but you had one condition for the loan deal. You said you wanted to talk about the special Italian guy who wears a wig. What's his name again?
Is the C word allowed on here?
Yeah, it's allowed.
Depends which one you mean.
Oof. Well, I'll give you the worst one if you want. Conte.
Well, we can talk a little bit about Conte afterwards when we come to the manager segment to keep or sack, and what to do if we choose to sack Ten Hag. But first of all, I want to go down to the game and talk a little bit about the game yesterday, and maybe we can go open with Stu. You had some good analytics of the game yesterday, but maybe you could do a recap and tell us about what you saw yesterday.
Yeah, so interestingly enough, I wasn't too despondent coming into the game. Vilified, of course, by the bulk of the United fans who were saying we were playing Route 1 football, etc., etc., etc. But Tom's, sorry, Bombay, we've never worked together, so I don't know, your thoughts on Ten Hag and how he plays. But me and Tom are quite similar in our tactical approach, and so is Jarvis. And I just thought it was quite funny yesterday watching Guardiola hopping mad on the touchline, almost having a pop at the fourth official and everyone else about him, saying, what the fuck's going on? Why aren't they playing the way that I want them to play, the way that I expected them to play? And we played a different type of, as Georgie Best would like to say, old school football. But is it really old school, or is it just football? Because ultimately it's just football. You can talk about modernism in the game. You talk about antiquities in the game in terms of dinosaurs and things like that, in terms of managers and everything else in between you want to talk about the game. But the actual aim of football is to score more goals than the opposition and win the game. Okay, we didn't win the game, but what we did, we stumped Guardiola and we stumped City in the first half by not playing out from the back and utilising a strength that none of us really knew that Onana had, and that was accuracy, either from his a long throw, but mainly through his kicking. And because we weren't playing out from the back, and you got all these ant-like players like Foden, like Silva, you know, they just chase Doku, they just chase people around. And what they do, they push forward such a lot. It enabled us to get in 2 or 3 times, even 4 times actually, around the back, which hasn't really happened with City too much, because when they are chasing, they're dispossessing. They didn't really dispossess us. We had an issue. I know Tom will bound to bring this up, but we had an issue with our fullbacks in particular, and also 1 or 2 times our centre halves, when trying to play the ball out, didn't quite find the midfielders. But actually, when we did find the midfielders, our intricate short game play was very, very good at times. It wasn't brilliant, but it was very, very good at times. And in the first half in particular, Rodri was kind of not at his best. I mean, he hadn't obviously, Pep hadn't pressed the button on the sidelines to give him his extra energy boost that he needed. And De Bruyne, as much as he huffed and he puffed, he didn't really pull the house down until they made that one Haaland effort. Obviously, crikey, my gran, bless her soul, she was alive, would have popped that away. I mean, Jesus, I always missed it. I still don't know. Because all he had to do was do that, duck his head, and it's fucking a goal. So when you look at that part of the game, on our intricacy in the middle of the park for once, and being able to hold possession for once, and be able to cause some damage for once, was really good. What I couldn't quite understand is why we reverted to type in the second half. I was absolutely massively surprised by that, because if we carried on playing the way that we did, Guardiola would have had no choice but to sit deep. He'd have had to stop the initial frontline press. He wouldn't have been able to push his fullbacks up. He wouldn't have been able to push up Diaz or Stones or anything like that, because for fear of what we did in the first half. And that would have actually given us an extra 10 or 15 yards at the back to be able to manoeuvre and take a bit of control of the game in the second half, maybe even take the sting out of the game. So I'm not quite sure. I haven't really got an understanding as why we reverted to type. And then obviously after that, City just kept going and going and going. Roger had his energy tablets or whatever he has at half time, and he became more influential in the game. Yeah. We had a bit of an issue with Bruno at the back end of the first half, being the single press. He was the only one pressing. He looked really tired. The Rashford chase with Walker, where, you know, was it a foul? Wasn't it a foul? I think it was. But Rashford didn't really cut across Walker as much as he should. And when you do cut across someone like that, when your legs are gone like he did, you just slow down and Walker bumps into you. It's an easy foul. Because the way that Walker was running, he was going at such a pace, there's no way we would have stopped this Rashford to just put the brakes on. And it pushes, what it does, it pushes you up the pitch. And we didn't push ourselves up the pitch enough in the second half. And why people don't agree with me on this, and why people are saying we got actually battered, because they're more interested in the possession side of the game and the percentage of the possession that a team has. But it's what you do with that possession that actually wins or loses your football matches. And as much as City huffed and puffed, they didn't really blow our house down in the first half. So I'm quite surprised that we changed our game plan in the second half. Foden in particular, he was always going to cut in. That's what Foden does. So I'm surprised that Lindelof didn't crunch him in the first half. He should have been in Rosette on 2 or 3 occasions. You do the same with Bernardo Silva. You push the buttons of De Bruyne. You make him think about, when he's got the ball, think about who's going to take his legs first before he actually has time to influence the game. Haaland's a bit of a difficult one. He's tall, he's gangly, but even Haaland was out of sorts in the first half. much to do with the second half, except the gift that Amrabat gave him, which we don't want to go into right now. So, all in all, whether people like it or not, and Tom made a great point. Sometimes in football you do say, well, we didn't get beat 6-2 this time, or we didn't lose 7-0, etc. We only lost 3-0. But actually, you'd be more disappointed going back into that change room as a United player and asking the question as to why we changed. Why did our team, or why did certain players decide to not press or not do what we did in the first half? Why did Onana go back to trying to play it out from the back? Why did we do all this? And those are the questions that I've got. And that changed the game for us, and it played into City's hands. But I've never seen Guardiola, and guys, please cite me a time if you can remember when Guardiola's actually gone to the fourth official, fucking pleading with him to make Manchester United play how they should do. Because we all know that Guardiola was expecting 4-3-3. We know that. Jarvis was absolutely right. We played more of a 4-2-2-2. So we had that square box.
Yeah, the 4-2-2-2. Yeah.
Yeah, we had 2 square boxes. You have the front 4 and the middle 4. So, and that worked really, really well. So Guardiola was pulling what tiny bit of hair he has completely out because he just didn't know what to do. He got no idea what to do. De Bruyne hadn't got a fucking clue. Not that he can see with his curtains now. Rodri didn't really know what to do. Kyle Walker was up and down, but with very little penetration. Same with Ake, very little penetration. Doku, I'm not really sure what Doku was. He reminds me of Anthony, really. He tries to do all this flash stuff. I know he's got more production than Anthony has, but he tries to do all this flash stuff, but doesn't really get anywhere with it. I thought, overall, when you look at it, I thought probably John Stones was one of their better players yesterday. Yep. I really did. So that was my take on it, fellas.
Brilliant take. There's so many things to talk about what you just mentioned. So I just had to pick one of them, and I will go to Boumbaye. What do you think about the goal they scored? About Lindelof, his defending? For me, I think he's a little bit weak. He's a little bit too soft when it comes to tight marking. He gives a little bit too much space, and for me that was one of the biggest problems when Phil Foden got that cut in and scored his goal. How did you see that first goal of Man City?
You've got to show him, down the byline. He wants to cut in on that left foot. That's pretty standard defending. And as soon as Phil cuts in, when you're, we've all played football. Sometimes when you're in that flow, you've made the cut in, there's a line of defenders, you're pretending to shoot, they're buying it, and you're making strides. And now it's just when you're going to take your shot. And, that's it. As soon as he's cut inside, he, gives the dummy, and then the strike is just a beauty. That's Phil Foden quality for you. There's nothing the keeper can do about that. But, you've got to show him down the byline. I mean, we've got always throughout that game, we were compact. We were, I think, Stu, if you were to listen to my analysis of this game on the Real United Therapy, we're actually pretty much aligned, you and me, in terms of the analysis of the game. I saw positives, and I saw something that exceeded my expectations. I went into that game as a no-hoper. But yeah, in terms of the goal, Jav, he's just got to do that. He's got to show him down that byline. And it's a shame because we always had, a cluster of 11 players there. And me, stats is valuable, but sometimes the analysis, like if Stu's trying to break it down like he did, and I agree with a lot of what he said, then you'll get a response of, but we only had 2 shots on goal and they had, 5,000 shots. But what's the context of those? What is the reality of those statistics? What it was is there were 2 golden opportunities. The rest was shots from outside the box with, many men in front of you, nothing really dangerous. You had Foden one-on-one, which, we got carved open there. And you had Haaland, which is, an unbelievable miss. Other than that, De Bruyne was quiet. Haaland was quiet. We were all right. But that first goal, could have been avoided at the beginning. But as soon as it goes in, now we've got a different game.
Do you think Man City just in a way grinded us down during the first 70 minutes up until the goal, because they were constantly dominating us on the ball. They had possession. I think it was like 74% possession. We always just chased the ball during the full game. I would say the only thing only time when we was in possession was when Onana was keeping the ball. And I think even the Onana thing was a planned move from Erik Ten Hag. I think he just kept the ball to make City come a little bit higher, so there would be space in behind, and then Onana could ping the balls with his perfect foot. He was really good yesterday, and everybody has been talking about Onana and saying he's been trash and whatever people are saying. But yesterday we saw the same Onana that we saw in the Champions League final, I would say. Tom, do you think this is the revenge of Onana? Is he becoming the Man United goalkeeper as we were expecting?
I think he's definitely improved on his own personal development. Look, the one thing that we knew was getting rid of his goalkeeper was he was always going to be good with his feet. That's the reason why they bought him in. And he was going to be used to play out from the back, which was David De Gea's downsiding failure last season. And look, if you're going to bring a goalkeeper like that, let's face facts, you're probably going to have to take a hit shot-stopping wise. So you might concede a few more goals. I am going to be brutally honest. I think he was a large portion of blame for why we're not in the Champions League still. And I will hold him responsible for that. But in terms of the last couple of games and everything, I think he's improved. I thought against Villa, I thought he was immaculate. Even to a certain extent, Spurs, I thought he played quite well in the game. Again, yesterday, especially in the first half, I think made some brilliant saves. And I can see some improvements where he is trying to come for the ball from crosses and trying to go through people and everything. So I think there is sort of an improvement either in himself personally or he's been given some confidence or reassurance from the manager to say that you are, going to be the number one. And I have no doubts in putting Bayender in there ahead of you or anything like that. So, I think it comes down to, I think he's gone away when he went away to the AFCON. Let's face facts, he didn't play the games that he should have done with Cameroon. He should have started every single game for them, but he didn't. And I think that might have been a bit of a reflection period for him to say, look, let me take a bit of time out of it. Yeah, I'm away and I'm supposed to be playing in the tournament, but, let me go back to Manchester. Let me work on my overall game, not just the part of my game that I'm brilliant at, playing out from the back and distribution. But, yeah, I think his shot stopping is definitely improved and coming for crosses and everything. But, like we say, we have to see it consistently, week in, week out. But the problem, like I say, for me with Onana is consistently, I don't think he dives for the ball very well to either or side. And I don't necessarily think it's something to do with him personally. I just think it's the way that he's built as a goalkeeper. He doesn't have long arms. He's not one of those. He's not a massively tall, imposing goalkeeper. So I just think, based upon the genetics that he's been born with, and the fact that he's been, as good as he has been as a youngster to be a goalkeeper in modern day football, I just think it's failed him. Genetics has necessarily failed him in life, to the fact that I don't think he's got long enough arms to reach either of the goalposts should he dive for it. That's my issue with him. And even when he does dive for the ball on some occasions, he's too slow. He's far, far too slow to go to either or side of the goal. And I think if you want to argue about it, let a proper Premier League player take a penalty against him and stick it in the top corner. And I bet you he won't get to that ball relatively quickly. He might even move. He might even bother diving. That's the only thing that I've got as a criticism for him. I don't think he dives well. But the buffoonery and the, when people make the memes of him and stuff, when he was putting his arse and starts, people make the memes of that he's breakdancing and everything when he tries to save the ball or anything like that. I think that's necessarily been put to doubt. But no, I think he's improved quite well over the last couple of weeks and everything. But we need to see it more consistently. And look, even if the manager, I know we'll get onto it, if the manager does go, I think a new manager coming in who likes a goalkeeper to play out from the back would want to work with them. Personally, I don't think they'd want to bring in their own goalkeeper, so I think they would want to work with Onana. And like I say, I just think that we knew what we was buying. We knew what we was getting when we was considering buying the guy. So, look, only got ourselves to blame if people don't like the fact that he's going to cost you a couple of goals in the season. Ederson cost City goals in the season. Alisson cost Liverpool goals this season. The way that these goalkeepers play, you run the risk of that. So I can accept that, but not to the level that he completely tarnished the Champions League campaign for us. That was disgraceful. But in hindsight, like I say, he's improved since then on, which is only going to do better for his confidence going forward. And like I say, if he works for a new manager, I think any new manager who looks at predominantly after AFCON from AFCON till now, I think they would be impressed, really. Look, a lot of the goals and stuff, he can't do anything about anyway, guys. Let's be honest, he can't.
Yeah, I see a lot of people in the VR room agrees with you, Tom, and they think you have good opinions. Other people say that he should have saved the second goal, especially from Phil Foden. You know, we come close to his left leg, but again, he's not quick enough to react. I suspect that De Gea would have saved that one. That was one of De Gea's specialties, because he always used his foot when it comes to saving. He was always like an ice hockey goalkeeper in a way. When he stood, he was very compact and he was quick down on both sides with his
genetics
arms.
as well, Jarvis. Like I say though, genetics. I would like you can say the same thing for legs as well. Like I say, he's not a tall, imposing goalkeeper. If you're a 6'5", 6'4" centre half, like most Premier League clubs have at least one player that's over 6'3" in a team. If you're going for a cross, if you're going for a header from a cross or a set piece or whatever from a corner, and Onana's coming running at you, I don't think you're going to brick it. You're not going to brick it. But you have a big lump who's at the exact same height and body weight as you. For example, like Emi Martinez at Villa, for example, if he comes flying at you, you're going to feel it. If Onana comes flying at you, he's probably going to bounce off you, or he's going to take the ball. But like I say, there has to be improvements from it. But based upon how bad he was during the Champions League debacle and that sort of period at the start of the season, the only thing that we could ever see from Onana was he had to improve. We've seen the worst of the guy, and I don't, not to bury the guy, but I don't think we could have seen any worse. I think that was the worst. When you're that bad consistently for that many games, the only way is up for him. So he had to get good at some point, but it's small margins. I'll take a phrase for Erik Ten Hag. It's small margins.
It is. Oh, we have some gifts from the boss himself. I see here Ruby coming in, gifting 10 Mufc Realist TV memberships. So let's celebrate.
It's getting worse.
What? What are you complaining about?
You need a new one. I'm going to ship you an English one over.
Yeah. This is terrible. It's terrible.
Got a bit about them.
We have 10 new members. Let's see who we have. We have Gigabish 23, Jason Palmer, Tom Hudson, Ian McDonald, Giorgio B, Alistair Dirks, Abdi Cody, Gas Taylor, Peter Day, and Abdulwan Irvan is the new member. So welcome to the club, guys. Don't forget to thank Mick Ruby for the memberships, and big up to Mick for gifting memberships to the wonderful VAR room. So let's just move on.
Just going back to what you asked Bambaye about possession and did City wear us down in the second half. It wasn't a case that they wore us down. It's that we just lacked discipline in the second half. Our discipline went out the window. What Bambaye was talking about in the first half in particular is we were shuffling across quite nicely. So we're shuffling from left to right quite nicely. And when you shuffle across as soon as the ball goes, but you keep within 5 or 6 yards of each of your players, it makes it very difficult to cut through, because you're cutting everything down on the width. You're also cutting everything through the middle. And that's what we did nicely. Second half, we didn't. And Bobby also was spot on about Lindelof's position. I couldn't quite believe it myself, because what he did, he almost squared Foden up directly like that. He needed to be slightly, he needed to be slightly to the right of Foden. So he's got Foden out the corner of his left eye. And there's two reasons for that. Bombay was talking about showing him down the byline, towards the byline. That would have been perfect for him, because if he got him slightly to his left, or so Lindelof was slightly to the right, so Foden's to his left. As soon as Foden comes to cut in, you can cut across him and stop it. You can literally bounce.
Yeah.
It makes it a bit more difficult because your body position will give you a less of a chance to catch him going to the byline. But Foden hasn't got a right foot, so Lindelof might have been a yard behind him, but he hasn't got a right foot to cross it. We would have had more chance of clearing it. So 2 good points.
Yeah, but I agree what you're saying, Stu. But the problem for me, you could easily spot that Lindelof is not a left back. He doesn't have the natural ability as a left back do, and he's way too passive. If you're a left back or a full back on either side, you have to be more aggressive. You have to be tight up in your man. You can't let him take you on, and you can't just back down like that, because then you will easily be dribbled and passed, and you could see, the shot was a worldie. I think the XP, expected goals on that shot, is 0.02 or something like that. So it was like an improbability that he would score on that. But again, Lindelof should be more aggressive going on his man. But there was something else that happened in that goal. I will just bring up the tactical board just to show you a little bit what I'm talking about, because this is important, because it's the off the ball movement from Manchester City that was really excellent on that goal. Let's see, add to stage. I don't know if you guys can see this. Maybe it's too small, but okay, I try to enhance it a little bit. No, it's not even better. What actually happened when I'll just remove some of these players, because Rodri was on the ball first.
That's right.
Yeah, and let's make it simple. I will make it as simple as possible for you to understand. And McTominay was on Rodri. Phil Foden was here with Lindelof, and
Lindelof was square, wasn't he?
Yeah, okay, he was more like that. But he played the ball to Foden, and then Rodri just, I would say, jogged over here.
Correct.
And he dragged McTominay with him, and he left a huge space in the middle for Foden just to cut in and shoot. And this is the off the ball movement that I often miss from Man United. We don't play for each other. We don't have a pattern of play. We always address the tactic, but patterns of play is important when you play the game. And it's so easy. And he didn't even sprint. He just jogged casually to the corner of the 18-yard box and opened up the whole of the midfield, even though we were super compact. And this is intelligent players do this.
Yeah. So just to show you where Lindelof should have been. If Lindelof was there, okay, Rodri would have had to go there, because he wouldn't have gone tight to Lindelof. He'd have had to go there. And then obviously McTominay would have been there. Foden, if Foden comes across there, Lindelof can snap him immediately. Look at the how we close the space down immediately if he was slightly off him. And if Foden then decided to go around him, Lindelof would be slower in a foot race, but he'd force Foden to go to at least there. Oh, excuse me, to at least there before Foden could then maybe get his crossing. Haaland's movement is going to be anywhere from there to there. That's where Haaland would be. You'd expect Varane to be tight on Haaland, and you expect Evans to be there. McTominay could block Rodri, or would stop any kind of movement for Rodri. And if we'd done that, you show me where City would have scored.
Yeah, but we did that a lot of the times in the first half, but that was the moment it all slipped.
That's my point, you see, because we stopped that discipline in the second half completely. We just stopped the discipline. And it's so sad, isn't it, really? Because what I've just done then, and Bombay coming on that, is just the basics of football.
Yeah, it is. We all played the game. If he's a left footer and a left footer like Phil Foden, you take your chances with the right foot, whatever it takes. Just show him down the byline, get your cross in. It's if you've got a guy that's a right footer, show him on the left. If he shoots on the left and scores, fair play. But you've got to get that part right. And everything else with that goal, McTominay. Yes, you have to go with Rodri because he can slip the ball into Rodri, and then Rodri can effectively get the cross, and then it's a vacant space in the middle of the park. So, yeah, basic stuff. Basic stuff. His body shape is wrong from the beginning.
Yeah.
Invite him down the byline. That's what you do. Invite him. There you go. Go down that byline. Make it inviting for him. Stand side on. But
You're right,
you didn't do that, and then. I mean, Phil Foden, guys. I could watch Phil play all day. I really could. I love this player. I thought he was special yesterday. But guys, it's John Stones is a goddamn marvel. That guy yesterday was playing through the 3 stages of our team, giving them the overloads, creating the gap and exploiting the gap that existed in the pocket between the defense and the midfield. And he's been doing that for Pep Guardiola, and he's integral. That's just the way it is. But
Yeah.
yeah,
I agree. I just want to say to the VR room and people watching, we are on 36 likes. There's 50 people watching the show at the moment. So there's still some of you out there who hasn't hit that like button, and it's important. Just use your finger, press the thumbs, and it will give us a like, and it will help the algorithms for the show and give us a broader audience. So if you like what you see, help us out. Hit the like.
George Best here, he's articulated what I said a lot more vividly, a lot more succinctly.
Yeah.
Nicely done, George. And I think, Craig, you know what? You look at our bench, guys. It's depressing. You look at City's bench. It's depressing.
That's a great point. I saw Craig Geworby made that point in the comments earlier about the bench. When we had to do substitutions, it all fell apart. And you could see City's bench. They have so many good players. They have abundance of talents. They can just chalk on the pitch, and the team will be still as strong. But we have youngsters who haven't even played a game for Man United who sits on the bench in the derby. In Premier League in 2024. We have spent £1 billion pounds on players the last 10-15 years, but this is what we got at the moment. And this is a big problem when it comes to the ownership of the club. We have been talking about this up and down and around in the last 5 years, I would say. But we can't change it, but it looks like better times now, at least what we are reading in the paper with Jim Ratcliffe and INEOS. There came some rumors today about Ten Hag only getting 3 more games, and they will decide on his future and his fate. He has 1 more year left on his contract. His win percentage is 61 in his first 100 games, so it's not looking good. How do you assess it, Tom? Will Ten Hag stay through the next season, or is he done as a manager of Man United?
For me personally, if we're discussing on Ten Hag, I think based upon how this season's gone in comparison to what success and progress he made last season, it's almost a false dawning, really, and I don't necessarily think it just comes down to this season. I think with the way that INEOS have almost ripped the hierarchy of the club to shreds, as it is already, they ripped Richard Arnold out of there as soon as they weren't even ratified and they got rid of the guy. John Mater, I think, will follow suit with the likelihood that Dan Ashworth will come in and be the sporting director for Manchester United. And they're looking at other operators, Jason Wilcox of Southampton, who worked for many years at Manchester City with the academy players. There's a brilliant academy scout. So look, they're going for all these different people for these higher senior roles in the football club, and I just think that for them to basically build a whole new structure upstairs, to then keep the guy who didn't have that structure above him, and who, let's face facts, guys, through a lot of his tenure at Man United, I think has winged it really. With some of the players that he's brought in, the recruitment's been shocking. And based upon the fact of that when Ten Hag's been here, he's not had that structure. And reports for when he first wanted to come to Manchester United stated that he wanted full operational control over the recruitment and also the playing squad for who we can get rid of and who we can keep. Who we can get rid of and who we can bring in for new players. Recruitment's been shocking. You can't spend, and like I always use the Anthony situation as the big one. Really, I'm sorry, you cannot buy a one-footed winger for over £80 million, and he not be brilliant with that left or right foot. It's disgraceful. It's absolutely disgraceful. You can get, I would say, a winger out there in the market for £40 to £50 million who can use both feet, who's 3 times the player that Anthony will ever be. And everybody, and I'm sure Ten Hag is another one who got hoodwinked by the fact of the kid can do a couple of flicks and tricks and do a little swirl on the ball, and everybody suddenly gets giddy and hype. But for me, I think, like I say with Erik Ten Hag, I think the results this season have been shocking. I think he's been busted out of jail many a times by some players. Scott McTominay's a big one. If Scott McTominay would have been sold to West Ham in the summer as it was likely it was going to happen, he wouldn't have scored against Brentford, those 2 goals when he needed somebody. He wouldn't have scored in many games that he's had this season when he's needed a player to step up. But look, at the end of the day, I think that a new regime's come in town. They've ripped everything apart. And I don't see the actual team as it is right now. I don't see the same spirit of a team that's playing for... I don't see a playing squad that's playing for the manager, but I also don't see a set of players that's playing for the football club in some games. And I have a massive issue with the latter. If you don't want to play for the Manchester United... Look, forget playing for a manager for a second. Play for the football club. Play for the football club. A manager can be replaced. The football club won't. That's the difference. So if some of these players don't wish to play for Erik Ten Hag, that's fine. Play for Manchester United. Play for the fans that travelled across from South Manchester to the Etihad to watch that pile of shite yesterday. Because I'm sorry, I don't accept any game. I don't accept one game a season or the full 38. You do not go away to any ground. I don't care if it's Anfield, if it's the San Siro, or if it's the Camp Nou. I don't care. You don't go to any ground and your tactic is, for 90 minutes, you're just going to just sit in and defend. We have had this with Jose Mourinho. We had it with David Moyes. We've had it with so many different managers, different styles. So for me, as I said before, and I'll say it again, the first thing that I want Dan Ashworth, if he's the guy that they're going to bring in to be the sporting director, I want him to come in and in his first interview when he's announced as sporting director, this is the way that Manchester United is going to play football. This is the style. This is the DNA. This is the way that Manchester United will play football. And tell us and detail it to us. What I want as a Manchester United fan is I want to have similarly what Ajax they have. Ajax, when you associate that football club, you only associate that club with playing one way. And that's the Johan Cruyff way of playing football. That's what I want for Manchester United, but I want a different style. I want a style that's detailed and defined. For me, my preferable style of football is I like high pressing. I like high energy. I like fast-flowing rock and roll football. That's why for many years I've said, look, I love what Liverpool do as a football club. I think it's fantastic, the way that they play, the way that they... it's not necessarily you tick a tackle 30 passes and score a goal, but it's passive aggressiveness with the ball. When they lose the ball, they're like rag dogs to get it back. When they have the ball, they decompose teams. And it's almost as if you just make your own opportunities. You make the angles, you make the runs. It's all about movement and intricacy. That's what I like for football. So for me, look, I don't think they'll get rid of Erik Ten Hag now because I think it's too far later on in the season to get rid of him. But if you're going to go for, say, looking at it from the summer aspect, I think he will be gone because, as I said before, top form was a false dawn for me, even when he's got these couple of results recently. I could always envisage Villa and Spurs and teams like that. I just thought from that time to the end of the season, even from now to the end of the season, guys, I can see Spurs and Villa winning more games than us. That's just how I can see it. And look, it's an upward battle. And I think by the fact of that, Sir Jim Ratcliffe's had 3 interviews with big media publications. He's had it with the BBC, a proper sit-down one. He had a little 5 minutes with ITV. And then he had a choreographed transcript interview with the Telegraph. And in all 3 of them, he gets asked about what's the potential future for Erik Ten Hag. And he doesn't back him. He doesn't say, look, we're behind Erik and the players or whatever. And look, you can come in as an owner and you can back the guy and then you can get rid of him in the summer. You could just say, well, look, I'm backing him while we've still got the season to play for. But he's not done that. And for me, I look at that and I think if you're not going to back the guy in the most difficult moment that he's in right now as the manager, if he gets in another moment like that, you're not going to back him again. So he's in a difficult moment now and you're not backing him. So for me, if I look at it from the output, I want Dan Ashworth to come in. I want him to sit down with a journalist or sit down with one of Manchester United's interviewers and just say, look, this is the way that Manchester United's going to play. We're going to play tiki-taka football. We're going to play high-pressing energy football. We're going to play low-block football, whatever. Just tell us how we're going to play. And then from there, when they tell us the way that he wants Manchester United to play based upon what the ownership have told them, if that's the way that they want to play football, then go and get managers who fit that style. And when you bring a manager in, they come in and they coach the team. That's it. You coach Monday to Friday, match day, Saturday, Sunday, whatever. Champions League game, Europe game in midweek. You just focus performance. That's it. You let recruitment down to Dan Ashworth. If you want a player, for example, I've used this analogy before. You want a centre-half who's higher than 6'2", good physical presence. I don't know, is good ball distribution. You give those attributes to Dan Ashworth. He looks over Europe's leagues and all of the world and brings in 3 players, and the manager has an opinion. They don't get to sign the players. They have an opinion. And then Dan Ashworth and the hierarchy decide who's the best fit to buy for Manchester United in terms of this play style, not the manager, because the manager has to fall in line with the play style of your football club, not the other way around. The manager should not teach the football club a way of playing football. It should be set from go, and that's it. And the best example that I can use, just as a last point, would be what Liverpool are doing right now. The players that they have right now fit one style: gegenpress, high energy, high fast-flowing football. That's what their players suit right now. So when Jurgen Klopp's announced that he's leaving, they are going to try and hire a manager who is similar characteristics to that style of play. So if they're going to go for a manager like that, you look at Xabi Alonso, you look at Julian Nagelsmann, you look at Hansi Flick, who are very similar to that one style.
Yeah.
And if Manchester City get rid of Pep Guardiola, they will do the exact same thing. The only difference is they will go for a manager who plays what kind of football, guys? Tiki-taka. And then they will get another manager in who plays that football. And it carries on and on and on. But like I say, we've messed about for 10 years with all these different styled managers, blown £1 billion in the market, and what have we got to show for it? A couple of cups, no Premier Leagues, no Champions Leagues, nothing. And just embarrassing results against our rivals. That's it. So for me, like I say, set the style from the sporting director. The ownership picks the style for the football club, the identity, the DNA, and then the sporting director frames that out into the managerial market, pick a manager who fits that style, the best qualified one that fits that style, get them in, coach the players. You want a player, you come to me. I find you the best players that fit the attributes that you want. I'm the recruitment guy. You're the coach. And that's how it should always be. And that's how it is at Manchester City, at Liverpool, at Arsenal, at the clubs that are all progressing right now. That's how it is. That's the relationship. But we don't have that. So, like Ratcliffe said, he said, we need 3 years. Fine, Jim, you've got 3 years. But you better be in a position when Guardiola leaves Liverpool, when Guardiola leaves City, and Klopp's already left Liverpool, you better be in a position in 3 years to pounce. Because if you're not, that's when the league's open. It's an even playing field. So, like I say, get somebody. If you're going to get rid of Erik Ten Hag, for me, I would get rid of him in the summer. I would move him on. And if I had my pick of who I would go for, I wouldn't hesitate and I'd go and get Hansi Flick in a heartbeat. Hansi Flick or Nagelsmann, one of those managers who plays that style of football, very similar to what Jurgen Klopp does at Liverpool. Give him, the full 3 years that Ratcliffe's talking about. Give him 3 years of your project, Jim. Let him spend the same money that all the other managers have had. And if it doesn't work out, well, then the manager's the wrong. But at least you've got a group of players that understand the way that you want to play football. And you just get in a manager who knows the same style of football. Who just might coach it better or get better out of those players. So, but that's what I would do anyway.
We have many good takes there, Tom, and I want to move on to Bombaye, talking a little bit about this question about the 3 games coming up, and this is the decisive games for Ten Hag: Everton, Liverpool, and Brentford, and they will, at least paper talks say, they will judge him on this one, and if they choose not to prolong the contract with Erik Ten Hag and actually sack him in the summer and bring in a new manager, Bombaye, who would you like to come in?
He's just gone, Jarvis. So
okay.
No, I'm here.
Oh, you're back.
Okay.
Oh, you're back.
Yeah, I'm gonna need to jump off in 15, but
I can repeat the question if you didn't get it.
No, I got it.
Okay.
I got it. Perfect. Look, if the manager is, I'm fickle. Okay, I'll come out there like I think most people are. If we have 3 wonderful performances and all of a sudden things are looking rosy, if in the next 11 games we get to the end of the season, who knows how I'll feel. I said that the season restarted for me at Newport Town, and I'm going from there. We don't have to play 2 games a week. The fatigue thing is put to bed. We're getting our main players back. I don't think we're a team that is as fluid as other teams that are a lot more settled and can compensate for key players. We have to have key players in order to function anywhere like we think we can, or Erik Ten Hag would like us to. So with that in mind, season restarted, game by game. I'll have to see how I feel by the end of the season. But it's never nice to see a manager get sacked. But if Erik was to get the bullet, I don't think I'd be aggrieved. I think I'd be rather excited by the prospect of who's coming in. Because in spite of the fact that I rated the first season, and there were some mitigating circumstances, and there was some good things done on the pitch, and he dealt with a lot of shit off the pitch. This was the season now. I thought the football we forewent the football last season. We thought results. But after a summer transfer window with the ins that we got, I was expecting now to start to see the football for which we brought him in. I think it's the lack of that that makes me feel this way. The next 3 games, okay, fine. I don't think it's unfair up to this point. It just all depends, and I keep saying it. Do you feel as an individual that you are going places with this manager? And before coming on here, I have a very dear friend of mine who's an Arsenal fan, and he said, I've always felt we were going somewhere with Arteta. Some Arsenal fans didn't. It just depends. I felt we were going somewhere with Van Gaal. I really did. That died a death. So just depends on how you feel. I don't think the a manager should get 3 seasons by default, any more than I think a player should get a run of 5 to 6 games to prove his worth. I think you have to earn a 3rd season. You have to earn the right to play a few games in a row. Kobe Minu is playing on merit. He's earned it.
Yep.
You know, has Erik Ten Hag earned so far a 3rd season just because we think, no, we never give a 3rd season? Well, you have to earn a 3rd season. I have to believe that you're taking me somewhere. You have to earn the next summer transfer window. You know, the record is not great, so it's very difficult to make an argument for me to sit and make. And I like him. You know, I actually quite like the man. I like the way he is in press conferences. There's certain things about him I like. There's certain things about what he's done. You know, I analysed this City game, and I got, you know, a good reproach, which is always welcome from the therapy army. But I say what I see. But nonetheless, it's just at this point not quite enough. So it's like 75% of me says, I just don't feel it, Erik. 35% of me says, hey, maybe Erik can just absolutely make a believer of you. He's got 11 games or he's got 3. These are winnable games, guys. Everton, they're not easy because we're not, you know, this version of Manchester United, nothing's easy. But in reality, in the grand scheme of things, Everton is winnable. Brentford are not that Brentford. You know, they're yo-yoing. They concede. They're not quite as I don't have the appreciation I have this season for them as I did last year. You know, last year it was really aggressive, good work ethic, non-stop. We've seen that before, and I love that, especially from promoted teams. This year, it's dropped off a little bit. They're trying to develop it, and sometimes when you're trying to develop it, you know, you start to have these teething problems. And then what was the 3rd game?
Liverpool. Twice.
That's just something we look forward to. That's all about, at this moment in time, I'm sorry to say, damage limitation. And just to finish off, to just bring it home, the fact that after 2 years I'm going into Manchester City and Liverpool games with an expectation of damage limitation is unfortunately an indictment on the lack of progress that we are making for 2 seasons. It's a fair amount of time, 2 seasons, not to be scoffed at. It is a fair amount of time. So this is where I am with it, to be honest.
Yeah. But who would you like to bring in if Ten Hag gets the axe?
I mean, I don't have any grudges against anyone. Believe me, I'm excited at this point. Again, who you'd bring, but I like Antonio Conte. And the reason I go for him, it's not just that I like him, the personality. I think where this team is now, I see a team that has a very weak mentality. I see a team that has a soft underbelly. And I see a general vibe in all the facets off the pitch that culminate on the pitch that need to be brought, you know, in line. And I know we've had them before, but this is a new day. I think Antonio Conte is experienced. He's not going to be fazed by Manchester United. You could get a De Zerbi and Alonso. Of course you could. You know, they'd be here on merit again like Erik. But yes, Antonio Conte can crash and burn. I understand that. I concede that. But by the same token, this isn't a manager that is making a massive step up to a level of pressure at a size of a club with big personality players that he's not dealt with before, either as a player or a manager. Smaller managers that are made a name for themselves at Shakhtar, when, you know, with all due respect at Brighton, this is Manchester United. So when that pressure changes everything, there's not that pressure at Brighton. You come 6th, 7th playing a nice brand of football, that's considered punching above your weight. That's acceptable. That's really good. You come to Manchester United, you will be backed, you will get money, you will be given a platform, but in return, we expect a certain type of football, on a consistent basis, and we need results. You know, whatever happens in football, as bad as you may play, and this goes back now to what Stu's saying, and I've come to the realization of this only recently, the last few years. A terrible performance that ends with 3 points is always palatable. Is always palatable. What you have is a shit performance. Yeah, it's like, think Jose Mourinho. We park the bus and we lose. He's dead. There's no way out. He's getting it. But we park the bus and we get those 3 points. The perception is much more palatable. We take it, we move on. And what that does, the 3 points, it always buys you that window. Next week we'll be better and better and better. But you're not getting anything. We're not getting performances. We're not getting results. So what you're giving me, this is the thing.
I give the ball back to Stu, and I will hear your take on it before we move on to the next question, the next topic.
Well, I'll start by saying both lads have spoke eloquently about how difficult it is to make a decision about whether you should change manager or not, because that's really the thing. So you're either on one side or the other side of the fence. You either want to change him or you don't. Here's the interesting part, though. If you do change him, you're not going to progress next season. So if you keep him, are you going to progress next season? That's the fine line and the margin of changing the manager. And so I can see why the lads are really finding it difficult to make a real conscious decision of, let's change him. Let's do this. Very, very difficult, because we all know football on this panel. Most people, all of us know football in the VAR room. And we know that if you remove Ten Hag and you bring in, say, Conte, it's not a bad shout, by the way, Bombay, but if you bring in Conte, he's not really going to be progress in one season. And he won't be able to progress in one season because INEOS can't ship out the 12 to 14 players we need to go to bring in the 14 players to make a squad that will allow the new manager to progress. And that is the problem. That's the biggest problem. So I'm that's where I am. I'm on the fence with it. Do I jump in the corner if he has to go, or do I jump in the corner that he has to stay? But Bombier is right. You don't get a third year. You earn a third year. Players earn contracts all the time. Managers have to earn contracts. Tom Turno's spot on as well with the fact that, look, if we are going to play this type of football, we must bring in this type of manager. I get it. That's why I'm kind of struggling with a competent answer for you, because both lads are absolutely right. And I don't think if we change Ten Hag, you'll see the progression that we are expecting or want. And if you keep Ten Hag, you may not see the progression they're expecting or want. That's your problem. And that's just football. I've been in many a dressing room, sat down, and the new managers come in, and I'm listening intently, and I'm looking around the dressing room, looking around the change room, thinking, he can't do that. He can't do that. He can do this, but that's not fitting with what he wants to do. So when a new manager walks into Manchester United at Carrington, you'll look around and think, well, I've got 7 players that can play the way that I want. I've got 14 players that can't. What the fuck am I going to do here? Because I ain't going to go to INEOS and I'm going to give me 14 players. So, look, I may be right down the middle with this one, guys, and maybe that's the best way to be with the both opinions of Bombay and Tom. And I'm not disagreeing with either of them because I think they're right, but I just don't think you'll see that progression next year. Either way, that is, whether you keep Ten Hag or you change him, you're not going to see that progression.
I feel the same as you, Stu. I'm asking myself the question, sacking all those previous managers, what has it got us to? Where are we today because of that? Maybe if we have just kept David Moyes for 5 years, we would have been in a better state, or Van Gaal or Mourinho or Solskjaer. We will never know the answer to that question because the fan base went impatient, the Glazers, the owners was impatient. And the thing is, I'm also torn between learning from previous mistakes and creating new ones in a way. For me, that's a big problem. If Erik Ten Hag gets sacked, I want it to be for the right reasons, not based on just pure emotions and stuff like that. And the good thing in this process now that we are into is we have first time in many years we have footballing people making this decision. They will assess Erik Ten Hag, and they should assess Erik Ten Hag because the results hasn't been good enough. But the assessment will be, why haven't the results been good enough? What can we do to improve? Is it the manager's fault? Is it the injuries? Is it a lot of other circumstances that's a part of that's the problem? So for me,
I had to bring that up, Jarvis.
I will sit on the fence. Yeah, Byron Francis say, I'm
That's
not
a great
like
comment.
yes.
Fucking
Think it's good.
Brilliant comment. It's such a difficult one, as I said. Both lads, they were both right in both their opinions, So I'm kind of with you. If you're going to move, you're moving for a reason. But I don't think we'll see that progression next season. Either way, really. It's a tough one. It's a tough.
It is. So, Boombaye, do you have time for one last question?
Go on.
Yeah, we can open with you. We read today in the papers that McTominay, Rashford, and Bruno is most likely staying for the next season, so they will not be shipped on in the summer. And for me, when I heard that, I instantly thought of the previous 100% ownership of the Glazers, or 68% ownership of the Glazers. This is how they move, keeping on players, not let them run down the contract in a way, and not base it on performance. How do you assess it? Should we sell these guys, or do we have the right thing to keep them and move other players on?
No, these belong to the group of players that I keep. These three. I think Bruno is one of our most creative players. He is our creative spark. I think Marcus Rashford, yeah, I am disappointed in the application of Marcus Rashford. But the ability is there. But I don't know. There's something wrong. There's just something wrong. I don't see a player that is playing with glee. Is playing with an enthusiasm that I associate with him. Before it's inconsistent. I don't know why. As you say, it was a great goal, but I wasn't happy with the overall performance of Marcus Rashford at Manchester City. Off the ball, movement wise, pressing wise. And it's not just the application, it's the brain. Know where you are on that pitch. Know where you are in context of your teammates. That's what I have an issue with.
Sorry to cut you off there, Bombay, but I talk about it all the time, mate. I tell
Yeah.
you, Jarvis will tell you, and Tom, I talk about brain first, feet last. It's all about your brain. So I'm just glad somebody else has brought it up as well. So
Yeah. I mean, you see it against City, but these guys, you see, there's a fantasy where you can just change 10, 15 players, but this isn't realistic. Realistically, what we have done is we've gotten through the hard yards of certain contracts that are now not in their beginnings, but winding down. Martial's a good example. So we have 3 or 4 players that will just drift out of Manchester United. That's a big help. They don't really have a future. There is some fat in that squad that can be trimmed and turned into money as well. But for example, we did this on the show. We spoke about Martinez as a keeper, no doubts about it. But I can't just say I need to get rid of Varane. Now, Varane, it's not that he's a bad defender. The problem is the injuries. He's made of glass. I'm never sure when he's going to break down. I have the same issue. I mean, I'm a fan of Luke Shaw. I think he's a really good player. But again, we're just not very far away from an injury, and it's killing us. So if you get rid of, let's say, Varane, you can't get rid of Maguire and Lindelof as well and expect to buy 3 new centre backs. So you have to keep one of those 2. Evans, to me, it's irrelevant whether he stays or goes. He's not a hindrance to me. He's a good head. I think he's pulled his weight, to be honest, this season. You could keep him. He's not like he's breaking the bank. And then you buy somebody, a top class guy. He's the starter with Martinez, and you have the other 2, as part of a collective 4. So Bruno for me is very important. And I've seen what Bruno is capable of doing. I know it's not been a good season this year. I know Rashford is not having a good season this year as well. And Scott McTominay is not everybody's favorite, but for me, I just like Scott McTominay. He's all round a decent player. He's an academy player, which I have to confess I have a soft spot for him because of that. But you know what? He's a pro. He's always ready. You don't hear any nonsense about him. You know, when he's called upon, he comes in. He is what he is. I'll say that. But you need a squad of players, and sometimes it's harder to find a player that accepts his status and position within the squad, and he's willing to always work in the interest of the team and not moan and destabilize things than it is to find your starter. So these players are important too, and he's one of them. So I want to see if we get a new manager, can I, reignite Bruno Fernandes? Can I reignite Marcus Rashford? Because at various times throughout Erik Ten Hag, everybody looks like they've suffered a little bit with the way that we're playing, and it can't be fun to go out, most weeks and just not enjoy it and not play and not get the results you're expected to get. I just need to bring Ange Postecoglou into this very quickly. I would love to play in that team. I would like to play in that style of football. Now, I'm not telling you, he started really well. He's doing well under the circumstances. He has been backed. He's brought in a fair amount of players, but he's bought well. Everybody that he's bought is, doing well. But they play a really good brand of football very, very quickly. And he took over from Conte, and they weren't really doing anything. And now the comments will go berserk. Why do you want Antonio Conte? Yeah. So this is the thing. But I like those three players. I would keep them. Yeah.
Yeah, because now with the feeling of the fan base, I heard today some of the bigger fan channels made some questions around Etihad and talked to the Man United fans, but no one actually would have Rashford in the next season, and his popularity in the club is down the drains now, as it sounds like. Stu, how do you assess this? McTominay, Rashford, Bruno for next season, are they the players to keep and build on?
I'm just gonna say sorry, Stu. Listen, I apologize. I can't stay for your answer, but I am gonna watch this back.
No worries.
I'm interested in what you have to say. I just need to get some things ready for work tomorrow. Jarvis, thank you for having me on. Tom,
thank you for coming on.
Lovely to see you.
Yeah,
and everybody, the guys in the chat, brilliant. Thanks a lot.
Take care. Good to meet you, mate. All the best.
Pleasure. Good night, guys.
Yeah. Good night. Good night.
Take care, Jov.
Take care.
Yeah. Look, it's hard to argue with what Bombay is saying. I bet you Tom's kind of thinking quite similar, because maybe if you'd asked me 2 weeks ago, I'd have thought, ship them all, gone, get them gone. It leads me to two questions, though. Is that a Dan Ashworth consideration, which really backs up what Tom's talking about, with either a new manager or keeping Ten Hag? Or is there a new gaffer already in tow that's made that decision to keep all three? Those are the two questions I've got. But I'm kind of I'm in more agreement with what Bombay had to say, because of looking at the overall bigger picture. Rashford, to me, just needs a break. What we need to do with Rashford, if you're going to keep Rashford in the summer, he doesn't go off to America. He stays at home and he has a break, complete break away from football, and doesn't do any traveling, doesn't go on his holidays. He just needs to stay at home with his family, go into Carrington, go home, go into Carrington, and have that break from football. He needs that break. He's done. He's mentally screwed, is Rashford. Physically, there's nothing left. I totally agree about Bruno. Look, if you'd asked me 2-3 weeks ago, I'd have said sell him. If we can get good money out of Bruno, let's sell him. But I saw something of the older Bruno again on Sunday at the Etihad. I saw a willingness and a want. And when you've got that willingness and a want and that creative and that guy who can ping out a goal from nowhere when you need one, you need that type of player. Again, I talk about it, sitting in a dressing room, looking around and thinking, there's a match winner over there. He fits into that category for me. And McTominay as well. You know, I think he's shown everybody a clean pair of heels this season in terms of the importance he's been in certain games. And again, Tom mentioned this yet again, you know, in his statement over the manager. If McTominay had sold in the summer, he wouldn't have scored those two against Brentford, wouldn't have popped up against Villa, you know, and things of that nature. So those three players, actually on the face of it, if you can do it right with them in the summer, if you can get them really healthy, strong and fit, yeah, I can see why. And I would advocate keeping them, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yalem Almin comes in and says Bruno did not have a free role against City. He plays much better when he does not have a free role, and actually that's spot on for me. I think it's about his discipline. He needs to be more disciplined and keep his position more, because it's about the team. It's not about Bruno. So that's a good observation, Yalem Almin. I agree with you there. We are coming up at the last part of the show. We are going to do a Q&A session. It's Q&A time. So if you guys have any questions for the panel, me, Stu, or Tom, just put them in the chat room, and we will try to answer as good as we can.
Before we do this, let's quickly address Lillis. Dude, we feel your pain. Honestly, we feel your pain. But I don't know where you are age-wise, but I'm an old man. I'm 54, and I've been through this awfulness, this trajectory before. And Manchester United, when you follow our history, it's very, very similar. We have real lows. We have great highs. Just hang in there, pal. Just hang in there.
Let's see if we have any questions here.
We haven't had many tonight, to be fair.
No, I haven't found. I see McDonald. He said we should be looking at Alonso as the next manager. Tom, do you like Alonso as a potential manager? Any style? I know you mentioned gegenpress, but Alonso is more like fluid football, possession based.
Yeah. I like Alonso as a manager. I can't disagree with that. I do like his style of play, but it's not my cup of tea, to be honest with you. The way that his Leverkusen team play, it's almost a hybrid of Klopp and Guardiola, sprinkling a bit of both together.
Yeah.
But to be honest with you, with this hype that Xabi Alonso's having right now, I think in the German league it works. But I think he'll come if he does come to the Premier League, predominantly Liverpool. I'm going to be very harsh here and say I think he's going to struggle trying to play that way. I think he will struggle because there's an adaptation period, and he's going to come over here similar to what Jurgen Klopp did, where he came over with his style that has never failed for him in Germany, and Klopp within 2 years had to adapt. He couldn't play that same style because he was burning the players out. He got to like halfway through a season, through the first season, and he got to the 3/4 of the season. Klopp, when he joined mid-season, he got to like 3/4 of the season. He burnt the team out. I think he had a squad of about 20, could be wrong, 24, 25 players. I'd say about 20 of them was burnt out flat, and three of the other 5 that I mentioned were goalkeepers. So he only had, say, 2 players spare, and he'd burnt a lot of them out. And they got to that Europa League final at the end of that season, and they completely pancaked. So, I think with Alonso, if he does come to the Premier League, I think he'd struggle. But I personally wouldn't take him at Manchester United, and it's nothing against him, thingy-wise either. But I think as well when you categorise it with the Liverpool thing as well and stuff, and I think I
think you're right. I think you're right, Tom. I'm with you on that one, pal. I think he's a good manager, like you. I do, and I understand you're right about his play. He's very hybrid. But he took over Leverkusen. Was it halfway through last season?
I think he was, yeah.
Something like. and he obviously got them, you know, out of the relegation zone or whatever the issue was at the time. And we, you know, chances are they could go through the season undefeated. But as Tom says, it's that only big thing in Germany. If you are Xabi Alonso, right, I've said this before, euphoria is the most dangerous emotion a human can ever experience because it puts you on cloud nine. It's cocaine, it's whatever it is, it's the drug. If you're Alonso and you get yourself off to Munich or you pop yourself over to Liverpool or Barcelona, take Guardiola and you end up at Barcelona or wherever, what if you have that one bad season? So you go from euphoria to absolute despair, absolutely destroy your managerial career before it's even started. You know, Ollie had that euphoria and then despair at Manchester United, but he'd seen and sampled it, hadn't he? At Molde when he sampled it. So if I'm Alonso, Jarvis and Tom, I'm staying put.
Yep.
To be honest with you, I could agree with that to a certain extent. The only thing that I may be pushing over the edge is if, as it most likely will be, Leverkusen's players will be raided in the summer.
Oh yeah,
I think the centre half, Tab Silver, and the fullback, is it Frumpong? Is it the whole right hand side defensively of Leverkusen will get ripped apart completely.
Yeah,
and they've already lost big players in the last couple of years anyway. I mean, they lost Moussa Diaby to Villa, they lost Leon Bailey to Villa. There's a couple more that probably failed to mention anyway. So they've lost key players as well through the years, and I know Alonso wasn't there at that time, but to be honest with you, if I had to look at it, and I know I've said that I think he'd come to the Premier League, I think he'd struggle. I just think he'd struggle with the adaptation. And Liverpool, with how much success they've had with Klopp, I don't think they're going to be patient. I think they'll might give him, say, 6 months to say, get you football playing that you want to play, Xabi, and try and transition it over to the Premier League. But I think he's going to struggle in that aspect in terms of the short term, but it's whether Liverpool will ride it out with him in the long term. But who's to say that he even goes to Liverpool? Because apparently Bayern Munich wants him anyway. And if I'm Xabi Alonso and I'm looking at it from the way that I've been able to dominate it with Bayer Leverkusen so comfortably and easily, you know, you either do what you said, Stu, and you stay put and you keep progressing as a manager and learning, providing your team doesn't get ripped to shreds, or you just jump ship to the next best option in that league. Bayern Munich, maybe win a couple of titles. You get your CV boosted up, and then who knows? You might have Real Madrid knocking, you might have Man United knocking, Liverpool, whoever, or Bayern Munich might want you to stay for a bit longer and try and win a Champions League or something. So it puts them in the shop window. But the only argument that you can say with Xabi Alonso, as it stands right now, is he's not won anything. But I think that will change at the end of the season anyway.
100%. But that's the thing, you see, you know, and I can only talk from me, Tom. If I was Alonso, I'd stay and try and win the Champions League. Try and win the league with Leverkusen and the Champions League with Leverkusen. Because you're right, I see a Monaco back in the day when Trezeguet was there and Mbappe and, you know.
Oh, yeah, Jardim was the manager.
And you know, we got ripped apart, didn't it, Monaco, the season after, totally destroyed. If they can somehow keep that team intact, if I was Alonso, I'd stay and have a go at the Champions League. Then you've got something you can go to Bayern Munich with, or you can go to Liverpool with, or whoever, and say, "Well, look, this is what I've done. Let me have a go."
I'll get you Liverpool, please.
This, by the way, Man United supporter since he was 3, absolutely superb. I'd be interested to know when you went to your first game, pal. That'd be great. I was 7. When I went, so 1977 for me, and Wolves away. Madhouse just asked me, is 54 old, Stu? Actually, Madhouse, it is an old friend. I can still get around a football pitch at my tender age for 90 minutes, no problem at all. So you're absolutely right, it's not old. I think it's a great question. Jarvis, I'll give this one to you. I think it's a brilliant question, this. Well, it's not a question, but it is a question, so to speak. Ian likes how Carrick sets up. but I think we would all say it's too early for him to come anywhere near Manchester United at the moment. But what did we think about the way Carrick set up Middlesbrough and the type of style that he plays with? What do you think, guys?
Oh, this is difficult for me because I haven't actually studied Carrick. I only know the little interim period he had at Man United. So I have to give a pass on this. But maybe Tom has something to add on this question.
I mean, he's the only manager in Manchester United's history to have a 100% win record. So that's very good. That looks very good on his CV at the moment.
Yeah.
But, no, I think he's doing well with Middlesbrough. The best scenario for him, I think, would be get Middlesbrough promoted, and then you can have a season as a manager in the Premier League. Or look, I think if one of the jobs come up in the Premier League and he gets an interview for it. For example, when the Palace job was maybe vacant, but I think with Carrick, with the way that he plays, I think he needs a pre-season to work with some players, know his team, and try and mould something. But in that first leg that he played in the Carabao Cup semi-final against Chelsea, immense, absolutely immense, completely shredded Chelsea to bits.
Yeah.
Chelsea in that game, they played a lot of good players, a very lot of good players, and they got pinged about. So I like what he's doing, but if we're looking at it, he probably needs to scale it up either to the Premier League with Middlesbrough or without them, and go on to a Premier League club should he get the option and chance to. But we'd have to wait and see.
I think bringing up the Chelsea match is the best analogy you could do, Tom. Yeah, I think most people would be in Jarvis's point of view. They haven't actually seen Middlesbrough play. They haven't actually seen what Carrick's doing.
If you want to see, watch the highlights of that game.
Yeah, I think he's a good young manager. I think people will be looking at Kieran McKenna, but if he's got any brains, he'll stay put as well. Look at what our good old German Leeds guy. What's his name now?
Bielsa.
No. Oh, ex-Norwich boss. Tom, help me out.
Daniel Farke.
Yeah. What he's just doing with Leeds. There's some good managers, good attacking managers out there at the moment. So watch this space from the Championship managers. It's a great point. Jarvis, we've got one just for you, old friend.
This is more down my alley, we know.
Do you think playing out from the back is affecting our midfielders' stroke forward chemistry? Our positioning and passing is no better than Sunday League. Brilliant question. Well put.
That's a brilliant question, and the short answer to a good question is yes, it affects our midfield and forward chemistry. You know, the problem is the movement, because it's about timing. I'm always talking about timing. So when you always keep possession for a reason. You just don't pass the ball around on chance. You know, you're doing it for a reason, and Manchester City is a good example. You see how John Stones and Rodri moves the ball, and even Bernardo Silva is good at it, and De Bruyne. Well, actually, all of them are, but the way they move the ball is with a reason. It's because they want the whole team to be compact, up and down. But it takes time to move 11 guys from one side of the pitch to the other side of the pitch. It's not like Man United, because we are stretched out all of the time, because we are playing on the transition. So first the strikers, Rashford, Garnacho, Højlund, sprints up, and slowly the midfield comes a little bit after, and then the defense comes after. But then we have already lost the ball, so it's a lot of up and down, and this is a big problem for us. But as soon as we had Martinez playing out from the back, he was composed on the ball. He could find the players, and it gave us the little bit of time we needed. Even Mainu came into the game much better when Martinez played, because they had a connection playing, and then we had time to move up as a unit. And the thing is, when we lose the ball up front, there's no problem, because we have, as Manchester City had yesterday, they have 5 to 6 players around the ball carrier player on the opposite team, and they just swarmed us every time like a pack of wolves. and that's a big problem because this was a little bit of what I was talking about. Just to wander off a little bit from your question, it's about our individual brilliance in a way, because we don't have dribblers in our team who can come out of tight spaces. The only player who I trust is Menu. Actually, he can dribble out of tight spaces. If there's 5-6 players surrounding you, what do you do? Well, actually, you can solve the problem, but it's very difficult. And this is what I've been talking about for next season or the next transfer window. I want us to get dribblers like Florian Wirtz, and Kudos is a great dribbler, Savio and Kvaratskhelia, the Napoli winger. People who knows how to handle the ball, because then it's no problem. Because the weakness with Manchester City, how they swarm, is they leave the rest of the pitch wide open. So if you can beat that first press, then there's a big chance to make a transition or a counter attack, because they will be played off the field. So we need better individual quality on the players.
Very well said, Jarvis. And I've got nothing to add. I'll just quickly answer this one for your good old friend Harla. It's unusual.
Jarle.
Jarle. In answer to your question, Frankie de Jong, Jarle will be our next Wesley Schneider. So did you watch this space? That's where you will be. Jarvis was, really well put. In a nutshell, if I was to sum it up quickly and in a very, very small sentence, Jarvis is talking about our ability to hold the ball and use the ball when we're holding it. That's what he's talking about. But to understand that better, you've got to understand the position of the play and the gaps that we have between our centre halves and our central midfield player, and then our central midfield players to Bruno. Jarvis is talking about 10 or 15 yards at either side. When he was talking about Martinez fills that gap beautifully. He sweeps into that position and he sweeps back. It's almost like a pendulum the way that Martinez plays. Good midfielders, and Jarvis is a midfielder, so he knows exactly what he's talking about. You move up together as a unit, you come back as a unit. That's what he's talking about in unity. But as always, guys, you're listening for top quality Jarvis Cocker corner and tactics, because trust me, he knows exactly what he's talking about. So it was a great question. Tom, the reason I didn't bring you in that one, pal, is I've got one for you here.
Yeah, go on.
14 million to sack Erik Ten Hag, 20 million to bring in a new one. Can United afford a new manager? It's a great question, isn't it, really, when you think about the economics?
Yeah, in terms of economics, yeah. But look, if INEOS want their own guy, they'd take a loss to pay the guy out. But if they leave it till the end of the season, based upon he only has 1 year in his contract, most managers, especially in the Premier League, because of the guidelines rules, most managers, when they enter the final year of the contracts, if a club wishes to terminate the contract, it's normally in excess of only £5 million, based upon that it's in the last year of the contract. So if it gets to the end of the summer and he has that 1 year left, because if they're going to get rid of him, they won't extend for the further year that they can do in his contract, then they'll probably just set aside £5 million just to pay him off anyway. But it's not £5 million to get rid of Erik Ten Hag, in the same way that it's not 12 or £14 million to get rid of Erik Ten Hag. It's to get rid of Erik Ten Hag and all of his staff. So it doesn't just cover Ten Hag; it covers a lot of them effectively. But look, if they get rid of Erik Ten Hag, they're gonna bring in their own guy. And look, I think if INEOS have looked at anything, they probably looked at what Chelsea did with Thomas Tuchel, where they had a manager who was quite successful in his first year with the football club, who they didn't necessarily believe in because he wasn't their choice, but they gave him the benefit of the doubt. They gave him 300 million, and then he blew up the start of Chelsea's season because they weren't playing well and they didn't get many results. And then they brought in their own guy, albeit Potter, but didn't work out in the end. So I think INEOS sort of looked at that model and said, well, if we're going to make a change, we'll probably, and if we're going to want to invest money in a manager, it's better to be a manager that we want and that we're on board with. And the fact, like I said earlier, the fact that INEOS and Ratcliffe haven't come out and publicly backed Erik Ten Hag, I think is worrying and concerning for him. Because if your employer and your boss isn't guaranteeing your security for next season, whatever you're working towards this season in terms of Champions League qualification, you might not get to see what your reward is at the end of this season through to next season, which would be to play in the Champions League if you get that far. So at the end of the day, it's either or way, but I think regardless of the money, guys, they'd just pay whatever it is, and they'd rather have their man sitting there.
Brilliant. Thank you for that, Tom. Craig, I hope that answers your question. Guys, that's kind of the end of the Q&A today. The AR room, once again, has been top draw with your comments, getting involved with this. Absolutely brilliant. I hope you've enjoyed the chat from, all of us here. Jarvis, again, on point with his tactics, always is. Tom, brilliantly spoken about. The manager talk, it's so difficult, isn't it, Tom, to really come down on a side. But I thought your points were brilliant as always. So Jarvis, I'll hand it back to you. Thanks everyone for your questions. Get loads of questions in actually during the week. If you're on email or tweet me and Jarvis or Tom, get some questions in throughout the week if you like. We can do a whole show on questions if you want. Tactics. If you want to know what it's like, what the importance of warming up during half time before the game, what muscles you can if you don't warm up properly. Anything you want to know about football, me, Jarvis, Tom, and whoever's with us, we'd gladly talk to you about it.
Yep, you're spot on. 100%. And that's the end of the show. We have been here for 1 hour, 36 minutes. We have, as we speak, I think it's almost 50 likes, I believe. 45 likes. So if you haven't hit that like button, it's time to do it now before we end the show. And if you haven't, please subscribe. We will be here next Monday, 9 or 10 p.m. It depends if there's a football game or not going on Monday Night Football. But we try to be here every Monday. Same panel as usual and speak football with you guys and girls. So thank you for watching. Thanks to Lillis, Byron Francis, Riot, DJ Superfly, Lucky Singh. Who else do we have here? I have to scroll a little bit. And Craig Warby, of course, coming in with all his great questions. Royden, thank you to Mick who gifted the memberships, and the rest of you guys, because you have been so great, active in the VAR room. I am not as good as bringing in all these comments and questions, but I read all of them, and you affect how we run the show. So thank you very much. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you to Tom. Thank you to Bombaye. Thank you to Stu, and see you on the next one. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for stopping by and watching Mufc Realist TV. Don't forget to like and subscribe and follow us on the socials.
Quality show.